other than like maybe apps, or even if you want to talk about your apps, like what are things you do to like plan now that you're aware of them?
Just being able to talk about it, I think, makes it better.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Except at Trader Joe's, but thank goodness for face masks. And then what the fuck are you doing behind my mask right now? So it worked out okay.
Yep. Awesome. How about you, Ursula?
I would say, I mean, Jason probably has some awareness, but thankfully my behavior isn't too bad at home. It's more internal. Um, and just, Jackie being my closest thing I have to a training partner. Again, we talk about it and I just announce how I'm feeling. And I think that's been a really good strategy for me. And like friends, I would say like it comes out a lot at work. I'm still working in person, and I work with all women, and so just recognizing when I'm having a hard day at work, with again where I think everybody hates me, is sometimes announcing of like, I think my period is starting and I'm feeling a little sensitive today. So I feel comfortable announcing that to them. I think those things have been good to manage. Just awareness. That's all I've really needed. Again, I might try to eat a little bit differently as I learn more and things like that, but my diet is pretty consistent throughout the month. I don't get a lot of cravings or anything like that. But yeah, just awareness and just, again, being okay sharing with others, because it's good. It's good for us to talk about these things.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ursula. I mean, that's kind of this is how I deal with it, of just letting people know and being kind to myself to, say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. Like, it's all me. I'm sorry, it wasn't you. But just letting folks know. But it's even better now that we're in COVID. Well, not better in COVID, but the people that I'm around is limited. Mm-hmm. So I can just let myself be free, which is nice. Yeah, letting people know, close friends and colleagues and my partner, like telling him, like, hey, this is what's going on, and I'm sorry. You just asked if I wanted a cookie. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. So I think that's a big step. That's a really big first step.
Well, I think that's how it gets better for all of us, is like when we couldn't talk about it, it was being like, oh, you can't talk about it, you're weak if you have emotions around your period. But then that keeps you from being able to like actually treat it so it is fine.
Yeah.
Like
keeps you from being more human. This is how we are, right? So it's like, things are gonna happen and it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because we probably all grew up with, men especially kind of taunting or making fun of women behind their back, like, oh, she's just a bitch. Oh no, it's okay. She just must be PMSing. And it's like, no, screw you. Like, you deal with all this. Like,
it's very PMS too. Like,
yeah.
I would like to know more about the male hormonal cycle.
Yeah, and I think guys are just so oblivious. I mean, start to finish. I mean, my husband knew nothing about periods or birth control or hormones of any sort, and I've had to give him so many anatomy lessons in the last 8 months. And he's a smart guy. He studied exercise science and was completely oblivious. Maybe it is great that kids are having period parties these days.
Yeah, it's just, and I was thinking about this in terms of history, right? Women were shunned to like the other area of the village or whatever, like, oh, period thing, like they be amongst yourselves. So, right. So this cultural history of shaming, isolation, like, oh, there's something going on, and keep the women to themselves. And it's like, no, right. So yeah, have a period party, name it, celebrate it, because, people want to be up near us. So like, yeah, you should know how it works and understand. And even just being in the space for this amount of time, I learned a lot. Like I did stuff I didn't even know before, which I'm like, oh, So kind of the science of the period and all those things and new apps, I had no clue. So this is right. Just kind of having this communication is so helpful.
I definitely think for me, it's just, again, I'm going to echo what everybody else was saying. It's just the realization that it's happening and then the communication to the people that are close around you. Like, I'm feeling this the feelings are real, but I know that it's not actually happening. But I still feel this way and I can't do anything about it right now. So, and then, sometimes you just work on things that you're really good at in the moment. So I know if I'm feeling like higher anxiety, that's something that, or a time when I'll work on like projects or like planning something, because I'm able to really focus at that time. So just finding like your superpower within that time of your cycle. Maybe a time that you're better at working at one thing or another and save projects for that time, or I'm going to color this whole coloring book and in the next couple days or something, just something to give yourself and change your goals a little bit.
I'm gonna start crocheting a lot.
Yeah.
Just during my period, I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Exactly. Just give that overactive brain something to focus on at that time. So and then for the closing question here, what do you think is important for young female athletes to know about their period as their performance and training levels increase? Nicole, would you like to start?
That you should have one. I didn't really realize it at the time, but there are definitely people in college and stuff that like my friends have told me, and the person who told me this wasn't on our team, but it was like a badge of honor to like not get your period, like you were working hard enough. And I always had mine because also I had some people whose eating habits were a little off to me, even as naive as I was at that time, that I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna keep eating the candy bars, and not do like the skim milk or whatever the fads were at the time. But having a period is important. There's some athletes who like didn't get their period for the first time until like they were in their 20s because of how the level of training that they were at. And it's a really big issue to talk about all of that now, like in the running world, to like let people know that they should be getting it, and the contributing factors to, was it monorrhea, I think is what it is. Correct me if I said that wrong. But yeah, again, most important thing is to have your period as a young athlete.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that. I mean, I saw so many friends who were amenorrheic in college, either cross country or as Nordic ski racers or on the track team. And yeah, I think coaches definitely need to be vetted better before being put in positions with
or just be women.
Yeah, before they're put in positions where they have such impact on these people who are going to live and breathe every word they're told. There's some sort of responsibility that needs to that these coaches need to have when they're training women who are so impressionable. And in some of our other sessions for the period roundtable, Jackie and I will dive into this a little deeper when we develop some of the questions out. But yeah, this topic specifically needs a lot more coverage, I think.
I would agree with just knowing that it's normal and healthy to have a period. And then also just understanding that your performance might look different throughout the month, but that is not a measurement of who you are as an athlete. Again, just making awareness around that, how hormones do impact our bodies. And then just thoughts for another roundtable I want to throw in there is also just thinking about how our hormone levels change as we get older, and that that's not something a lot of literature is out about right now. And as someone who is in their 40s, I do have a lot of fear about how performance might change as my hormone. I mean, as much as they wreak havoc now, not having hormones definitely can wreak your havoc as an athlete as well. And I think that's an important thing to talk about, that you can still be an athlete as you go, as you're perimenopausal and things like that.
The book that I recently read was Taking Control of Your Fertility, and it does a really excellent job of talking about a lot of these hormonal issues. But yes, I think that's a great point, Ursula.
And that is a great book. Like I learned so much from that particular book when we tried to go through our pregnancy journey. It's just, there's things that I had no idea there were stages. I just thought it was period, not period, before that. So that is a good read for all women.
Totally agree.
Well, I'm kind of in a different camp since I didn't start running until my late 30s. So I don't have the, from high school or college in terms of being an athlete or runner or a cyclist or anything like that. But I would say at this age, at this point, that it's important to, understand your body, to have your periods, and to know when you're training, things are going to change, things are going to shift, and it's okay. It's okay for that to happen. It's natural for that to happen, and also listen to your body of when you're tired or when you just can't do anything. It's okay. I can just say my experience, at least the athletic end of training for marathons and just going through that process of having a coach and saying, like, again, at a certain age, like, no, it's too much today on my period. Like, no, like, I'm not going to do this. So maybe being older, you can say no a lot more and a lot often than maybe if you are in college or have that extra pressure. So kind of from this angle, it's important to say no and know your body and, what happens on your period, how it impacts it. And so I didn't realize that was an issue because, like I said, I started this journey or this running later on in life. And so my perception of self and my body is different than when, if I was 20 years younger or was a part of a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Becky, I have another thought too of just also knowing what resources and strategies are out there, like Nicole talking about the Diva Cups and things like that, or, is hormonal birth control a performance advantage? I don't know, but that if there are things that can help have your period more manageable and more predictable and all of that, and having that something regularly talked about in sports medicine too.
Yeah, that's a great topic for our next one as well. I want to be able to put these resources in one central location as well when we do discuss them, and then hopefully just create a resource for athletes, for young athletes. As far as mine goes, I guess I would say I wish I would have, as a older athlete now, I wish I would have known a lot of these things were happening to me because of my period. So I would just suggest that young women like track their periods as soon as possible. Like take the time and get as much information about your cycle as you can, particularly because, like we were talking about, hormones changing as you get older. So having all of that information will be hugely important as you age. And also if you have to go through any like hormone replacement situation, that's also really helpful. If anybody has anything else to suggest, I would like to hear it, but otherwise we are wrapping up.
Well, I think as adults, we should have period parties. It shouldn't be just for middle school.
Right.
That's crap. That's all I got to say about that. I love a good party and a cocktail. So why not celebrate
your party?
Awesome. You're welcome. It'll be a good time. You get all the emotions out. You can break some things. It's fine. No judgment. Judgment-free zone. It'll be a good time.
Thank you guys so much for entertaining this idea.
I know. Thank you for showing up.
It's half the battle, showing up, right?
Right.
More than half, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.